Hello, a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to your award-winning program Business Focus, your most authoritative economic and business analysis show live here on TV3. My name is Parkwesi Asari. Thanks for making a date with us for another exciting edition of the program. Well, there's some big news today. It's been trending since morning. It's about the central bank's decision to withdraw the licenses of two local banks, UT Bank as well as Capital Bank. Well, this singular decision by the central bank has been described by analysts as one of the boldest decisions ever taken by the regulatory body. But did we have to wait for this long? And how did we get here? What are the implications of the latest action on bank customers as well as on the general banking industry? We've got our reporters who have been on the ground since the start of the day, since the news broke. It's been a pretty fluid situation. Lots of reactions from the central bank, reactions from the Ghana Stock Exchange on the latest developments. We've been to the ground, we've been to Capital Bank, we've been to the UT headquarters where the bank has been taken over by GCB. So we're going to be bringing you pictures from our tour throughout the day. We've also got a big analyst here tonight to help us do the discussion. We've got the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Emmanuel Asiedu Mantey, to help us with the discussion. We've also got Mr. Joe Jackson, a tough talker. He's a financial analyst. We've also got Charles Mensah, an investment analyst, who will join us. Sydney Kesley Hayford also to join us with some perspectives to this matter. Ben Amwaje, who is an investment analyst with First Bank Financial Services, also will tell us the performance on the stock exchange with regards to UT. And also a number of our reporters will be engaging us on the show. So welcome once again to Business Focus, your award-winning program. We'll take a short break. We'll return with further details and analysis. Hello, a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to your award-winning program Business Focus, your most authoritative economic and business analysis show live here on TV3. My name is Parkwesi Asari. Thanks for making a date with us for another exciting edition of the program. Well, there's some big news today. It's been trending since morning. It's about the central bank's decision to withdraw the licenses of two local banks, UT Bank as well as Capital Bank. Well, this singular decision by the central bank has been described by analysts as one of the boldest decisions ever taken by the regulatory body. But did we have to wait for this long? And how did we get here? What are the implications of the latest action on bank customers as well as on the general banking industry? We've got our reporters who have been on the ground since the start of the day, since the news broke. It's been a pretty fluid situation. Lots of reactions from the central bank, reactions from the Ghana Stock Exchange on the latest developments. We've been to the ground, we've been to Capital Bank, we've been to the UT headquarters where the bank has been taken over by GCB. So we're going to be bringing you pictures from our tour throughout the day. We've also got a big analyst here tonight to help us do the discussion. We've got the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Emmanuel Asiedu Mantey, to help us with the discussion. We've also got Mr. Joe Jackson, a tough talker. He's a financial analyst. We've also got Charles Mensah, an investment analyst, who will join us. Sydney Kesley Hayford also to join us with some perspectives to this matter. Ben Amwaje, who is an investment analyst with First Bank Financial Services, also will tell us the performance on the stock exchange with regards to UT. And also a number of our reporters will be engaging us on the show. So welcome once again to Business Focus, your award-winning program. We'll take a short break. We'll return with further details and analysis.
83.93 million cedis, but recovered 191 million cedis. The bank's reserve stood at negative 17.75 million cedis. The total loan deposits ratio for UT Bank is 226%, while that of Capital Bank is 130%. These figures, never put out in the past 4 years, raises questions on the role of the central bank and the Ghana Stock Exchange in ensuring the commercial banks put out their financial statements annually. TV3 has lent UT Bank for the past 4 years, never published its standings financially. The company is listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. If for 4 years UT had bad financial standings, how was the company able to perform on a Ghana Stock Exchange? Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
All right, so those were details coming in. We're going to be staying a while longer on this subject. My colleague Rabiu Alhassan, as I mentioned early on, during the day, most of our reporters, Alfredo Kante, Naneka Mensah Brampa, My Paul, Rabiu Alhassan, they've been on the ground visiting a number of banks. They were actually at UT as well as Capital Bank. Rabiu joins me in studio. Rabiu, thank you very much for your time. So you've been touring a number of banks. You've been to UT and Capital Bank as well.
Actually, I've been to Capital Bank, the head office of Capital Bank on the Spintex Road. I've also been to one of their branches on the Oxford Street. And it looks all calm, but the real talking and the real negotiation is happening behind the scenes.
Within which period was this? Because we're told...
yeah, I was there in the morning to see the closure where it was cordoned off to the public. And I was there after 1 p.m. when it was open to customers for them to come and do business. So I kind of got a sense from the customers what they felt like when the place was cordoned off, their anxiety, and should I say, kind of mixed reaction after 1 p.m. when at the head office, some customers were not quite happy with the slow pace of processing of their transactions. And at the other branches, quite interestingly, they were kind of happy with the transition, the smooth transition as they've turned it.
Were you able to interact with any of the workers?
For the workers, I would say behind the scenes, they didn't want to go on the record. They sound kind of excited about the takeover, and they were excited the GCB Bank was the one coming in to take over. But it has not been quite difficult in terms of their engagement with their managers before this announcement by the Bank of Ghana. So it seems smooth for the workers of Capital Bank.
So we're told that the offices were going to be open to the public after 1 p.m. That indeed happened?
Yes, that indeed happened. And the key information is that at the head office of Capital Bank on the Spintex Road, immediately before 1 p.m., when it was opened for the public to come in and do business, it was rebranded. Capital Bank logos were removed and GCB Bank logos were put up.
UT Bank logos?
No, GCB Bank logos were put up.
And
replacing the Capital.
And UT, oh, you mean Capital Bank?
Yes, Capital Bank.
Okay. So we're going to bring you a preview of what happened, transpired early on in the day, where most of our reporters, Rabiu Alhassan, as well as Alfredo Kante, visited a number of the banks. Let's find out what transpired. Effective
today, their banking licenses have been revoked. Currently, we are here. We understand there are some officials of the bank to help resolve issues and ensure customers can come back to the bank and start operation effective 1 p.m. today. You can see workers of the bank also standing aloof, waiting for further directives from Bank of Ghana officials who have also been stationed here to help deal with the issue, whilst the top officials of the Bank of Ghana and also officials of Capital Bank resolve the issues, resolve the teething issues that needs to be resolved as the GCB Bank takes over operation of Capital Bank. So the information that has come through looks quite dicey, but the Bank of Ghana has given assurance to customers of Capital Bank that they are working to resolve with all the issues outstanding, and they shouldn't worry at all. They would manage to give them or come for their funds as and when they approach the bank. So that's what's so far happening here. We are waiting for authorities of Capital Bank to step out and give us further information as to really what is happening.
All right, so that was Rabiu Al-Hassan there at Capital Bank, bringing us to speed with the latest development on this subject. Rabiu, so what's the latest on that?
Okay, so the latest...
This was in the morning.
Yes, in the morning, effective 1 p.m., almost all the branches opened and they started engaging customers. For some customers I interacted with at the head office, which has been rebranded GCB, they were not too happy about the slow pace of processing of their transactions. Interestingly, when I went to the Oxford Street branch of Capital Bank, it has not yet been rebranded. The customers I spoke with, they were quite pleased with the smooth transition because they came in looking for funds and they were able to get their funds.
Okay, so you wake up and only to find out that the company you work for has changed ownership. I just can imagine what's going on in the minds of workers of Capital Bank. But Rabiu, thank you very much for your time. Also, Alfred Okanse, who's also on the business desk, visited UT Bank, I think, and let's get his updates.
So as you can see, as I said earlier on, it's official. The logo of UT Bank has been replaced by the logo of Ghana Commercial Bank right in front of the entrance of the headquarters of UT Bank at the airport city. Now, this whole rebranding is beginning very swiftly and as announced. So it's starting from the headquarters of UT Bank before it trickles down to the other branches of UT Bank as we speak. You see a lot of the workers now are idling around, and as I must say that banking operations hasn't begun as yet. The entrance is manned by security personnel, and they have actually posted boldly the announcement of the Bank of Ghana of the takeover of this bank by Ghana Commercial Bank right in front of the bank. So it informs customers of what they are hearing on the news media. So that's what you can see at the moment. And I must say as well that a lot of the customers that are walking in are not coming to do banking. They are actually coming in to do some inquiries about what's happening and what they have heard. UT Bank, we do know, that has about 710 of their staff, and Capital Bank has about 355 thereabout staff. Now, the question is whether the company that is taking over, the Ghana Commercial Bank, will maintain the total staff size of these two banks. That remains a critical question that will be answered in the few months to come. But for now, this is what's happening at the premises of the headquarters of UT Bank. It's been taken over by the Ghana Commercial Bank, and everything that reflects UT Bank is currently being erased. From the premises of former UT Bank, now Ghana Commercial Bank, my name is Alfred Okanse, reporting for TV3.
All right, so you saw Alfred Okanse there reporting from the former UT Bank building, which has now been taken over by GCB. Earlier, we saw Rabiu Al-Hassan also reporting from Capital Bank, which has also been rebranded to GCB Bank. Interesting developments. We've had a press conference organized by the Ghana Stock Exchange announcing the suspension of UT Bank from the exchange. We've had a press conference from the Central Bank. We've also got a number of, we've also got a press statement from GCB announcing the takeover and what it's going to do to the operations. I've got in the studio here tonight Mr. Emmanuel Esiedu-Mantey. He's a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank. Sir, good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very
Excited
much.
to see you. And also Mr. Joe Jackson, a financial analyst with Dalex Finance. Joe, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I mentioned earlier on that we're also going to be engaging with Charles Mensah. He's an investment analyst. We'll also speak to Sydney Casely-Hayford, also a financial analyst on this subject. So let's start off, first of all, with that press conference by the Ghana Stock Exchange announcing the suspension of UT Bank. All right, so we're going to start with our discussion, then we'll go back to that press conference. Let me start off with Mr. Emmanuel Esiedu-Mantey. You are a former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana.
Right.
How did this news come to you?
One of surprise, obviously, because I know that there's a supervision department that's supposed to monitor the activities of financial institutions that are licensed by the Bank of Ghana. And the monitoring takes two different forms. One is what we call off-site method of supervision. What this means is that the banks that are supervised by the Bank of Ghana send returns. The returns are in the form of weekly returns, monthly returns, quarterly returns. They solicit information about the operations. So sitting at the desk, there are people who are trained to read these returns and know exactly what is happening. In addition to the returns, we have on-site supervision also, where inspectors actually visit the banks and examine the records and the books to confirm what has been received. So if this is working, then the banks will know it well in advance that there's a problem and take measures to get it corrected.
I'm afraid I've got to ask you, you're a former worker of the Central Bank. Based on what you've said, can we say that this is a clear indictment on the Central Bank?
No, you cannot say that because we don't know when the problem started.
Well, as per the information available to us, UT has been on life support for the past 3 years. They haven't declared their financials.
No, but you're talking of two different things. Being on life support and
well, essentially they've been built up by the Bank of Ghana over the past 3 years.
It's a process. It's not an event. When a bank starts having problems, because of the nature of banks, the people involved, customer deposits and so on, you don't just withdraw the license. License withdrawal is the last resort. So you nurture the institution. You try to restore the bank to a healthy status. And that means engaging the management, making sure that the bank...
But it is mandatory for a listed bank to publish its financials. It is mandatory, isn't it?
That is true.
So when they don't do it, that's an indictment.
It's an indictment.
And they are not punished for it.
And as I'm saying, it's not the right thing to do not to publish. But look at the other side of the equation also. If you publish and people get to know the bank is in trouble, there'll be a rundown on the bank. And the consequences are not good. So if a bank is in trouble, like I said, you nurture the institution to bring it to wholeness.
All right, Mr. Jackson, so we've been nurturing the institution.
As you were talking, a lot of things were going through my mind. One of them was that how much disclosure is relevant and how much disclosure is not. Admittedly, you should be concerned about the a run on the bank or the financial system, but there's a reason why we have disclosure. And my challenge with this is that things got from bad to worse, and that's what happens when you hide issues. Right? At the very least, if I'm a shareholder, I've got funds in that institution, I will ask those who are supposed to look out for my interest and say, they haven't published financials for so long. What are you saying of our stock exchange that you allow an institution to go for so long without publishing its results?
Well, we're also being told that they were under separate feasible dispensation from the central bank.
That's what I'm questioning. I'm questioning that dispensation. I'm questioning that dispensation and saying that, listen, if you want to grow this, listen, right now, every business that is Ghanaian owned should be holding its head in shame. We've got two of our four leading institutions, our examples, our heroes. They've gone down. They've gone down today. They've taken the worst possible action to revoke the license and hand it to another institution. But the question we have to ask is this: don't we deserve to have known this earlier?
But you knew it. I knew it. We knew it.
Listen, there were all sorts of rumors. Read my words. Rumors about what was happening in UT. But there were people that we relied on to watch out for our interests.
Like what? The GSE?
The GSE?
Well, they just announced today, after the announcement by the central bank,
but they gave them a special dispensation for how many years? You see, I think that the disclosure should have gone in tandem with the bank telling us the measures they are taking to revive them, so that they carry all of us along. But I have an even bigger issue. there are directors of the bank. The directors have certain responsibilities. That's why you are a director. You are not the director just because you go there and have a cup of tea and a biscuit and then maybe take away director's fees. There's a reason why you are a director. And governance imposes certain responsibilities on you. So this issue, where are our directors?
But Joe, you've got to be fair to the management of UT. I'm not sure they anticipated this. Come on.
I'm not saying
they were overexposed.
I'm not saying the management of UT. I'll come to them at another point. I'm saying the directors of UT.
Okay.
You see, ultimately, we should hold the directors responsible before we even hold the management responsible. There were people there who had been elected. There were people there who had been appointed, who were governing this institution, and their actions or inactions have resulted in this in the worst possible scenario.
I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Siruman. When the central bank discovers that a bank is in distress, what does it do?
Let's ask ourselves, how did UT and the Capital Bank get to where they are?
Well, in the case of UT, we're told
that it's due to insolvency, right? They're insolvent, right? They were exposed to some kind
Absolutely.
What that means is that they've given out loans, and the loans have not been repaid. Now, when that happens, what happens is that you have to make provisions against what we call bad loans, right? And that provision is a charge on your capital, right? Now, there are ratios for monitoring this. We call it capital adequacy ratio. Right. And there are various degrees of impairment of loans. So it doesn't start one day. When 30 days after maturity date, the loan has not been paid, you notify the bank that quality is deteriorating, so do something about it. You go in there, they will show you the books, right? And say that we've lent so much to Parkway-C. Parkway-C is not in the position to pay now. So maybe this loan is restructured, maybe for the additional time given the client to repay. Come maybe the end of that period, Parkway-C is still unable to pay. So then the health grading goes down until it gets to a stage where after 1 year, if it's not paid, then you have to write it off completely, right? So when it gets to that stage where it's a total loss, then the loan has to be written off against the profit and the capital of the bank. Now, it appears that, from what I'm reading, that there have been a lot of those bad loans given, not repaid. So writing them off means that you whittle away the capital and the reserves of the bank. So I don't know when it started and how long this has gone on. But like I said, withdrawal of licenses is the last resort that the central bank.
When was the last time you did this? The central bank had to, withdraw a license of a banking institution.
Oh, that was many years ago. Bank for Housing and Construction did that, and the Ghana Cooperative Bank.
Absolutely.
You know, it got to a stage when they couldn't even honor depositors' withdrawals. So when you reach that stage, you are illiquid. So then you have to be closed down.
Does this say anything about and I heard Joe talk about it elaborately, he elaborated on that subject. Does it say anything about the directors of the bank, about the management of the bank?
Obviously it does, because you see, as a director, you're supposed to be giving policy direction to the institution. And you meet every month to look at the progress being made or the way management is implementing the decisions of the board. And it means, it involves reviewing the financial performance of the bank. Of the bank. Now, if the information being put before the board is looked at carefully and analyzed, you know that the bank is sinking, right? The board will know even before the central bank gets to know. Because, until returns are sent to the Bank of Ghana doesn't get to know. But the board is closer to the board. So the board obviously gets to know of what is happening even before the information
And what options could possibly have been open to them then when they found out?
Well, if you know that you're overexposed and the people are not paying, you stop lending and then you chase the defaulters. It's that simple. Because the money doesn't belong to the bank. The money belongs to depositors. You're only a custodian, right? So a bank must be in a state of perpetual liquidity. that you must be able to meet. The Americans have a nice word for it. They call it demand deposit. In other words, deposits are payable on demand. You place your money in a bank and you expect that when you write your check on that deposit, the bank should be able to honor it. So the bank might be in a state of perpetual liquidity. Now, where that is impaired, when the bank is not in a position to honor your request for payment, then there's a problem.
Mr. Joe Jackson, I need to find out from you if you are excited about how the central bank has handled this process.
Well, first of all, there's a new governor who's been in place only a couple of months, right? So obviously, we have to admire his
zeal and tenacity,
his ability to take such a difficult decision, right? But that's only for the current governor. You have to ask yourself that at the very least, we know that in the last 4 years, UT in particular hasn't published its results. In quotes, due to a dispensation from the central bank. Now you have to ask yourself, so what was done over this 4-year period that has eventually resulted in the most dire of actions? That's what, it's a natural question. That was there enough, and when I say enough, I'm talking about prompt corrective action. Because you see,
Mr.
Sidimante, he says something very important. This thing did not occur over the last 6 months. Neither did it occur over the last year. It takes time. So some of us are asking questions that, so what did we do over this period?
Before we ask further questions, let's go to that press conference that was organized by the central bank earlier today, and the central bank governor talking tough about possible investigations to be conducted on the managers as well as the directors of both banks, as Capital Bank and UT Bank.
The last phase of Bank of Ghana's action would involve a thorough investigation of the operations of UT Bank and Capital Bank, and appropriate action will be taken against shareholders, directors, and key management personnel who are found to be culpable.
Section 123 of the Banks and Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Act 2016, Act 930, necessitated a purchase and assumption agreement allowing GCB Bank to take over all deposits liabilities and selected assets of both UT Bank and Capital Bank. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, said the two insolvent banks were heavily deficient in capital and liquidity, a threat to the stability of the financial system.
UT Bank and Capital Bank were requested to submit restructuring and capital restoration plans. However, the plans that were submitted by these banks were found to be unacceptable. A pro forma balance sheet of liabilities to be taken and assets to be purchased were prepared, and a pool of bidders was asked to express interest. GCB Bank was then selected among 3 others. It has therefore become necessary for us to revoke their licenses and approve this transaction to allow GCB, a large bank with the right balance sheet, to take over all the deposits and selected assets of the.
All right, so you just have the governor of the central bank, Mr. Addison, there addressing the press, giving further details. Dr. Addison, I beg your pardon, giving further details to this latest transaction. We're told it's a purchase and assumption agreement, and he was just giving us details about what exactly they intend to do. We're told they're going to institute investigations into the operations of the bank. That's both Capital as well as GCB Bank, and directors, managers, or anybody who's found culpable culpable obviously will be dealt with. We're picking up information that the Chief Finance Officer as well as the Chief Executive Officer of UT, have resigned, and also that the other top management have about 6 months to justify their inclusion. In the meantime, the Bank of Ghana has assured the workers of the bank that they can freely work. They shouldn't worry about any layoffs. Well, we'll see if that is enough assurance. But let me come back to Mr. Jackson. So, you had the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Addison, essentially give details about this whole arrangement. Let me find out your views on the purchase arrangement, the agreement. We saw a number of bidders came in, but we should be excited that it didn't go to a foreign bank, shouldn't we?
Well, I suppose so. I really suppose so. But there are some questions we have to ask, right? We've seen that the reserves of both institutions were in the negative, and I think when you sum the two up, it's in excess of 200 million. The question you have to ask is this: so, who's taking up that liability? Is it going to be GCB?
Well, what we're told is that
GCB
will take over the good assets, and for the bad assets, PricewaterhouseCoopers, they will have to handle that, we're told.
So does it mean that the debts have been ring-fenced and GCB has taken over only the
good assets?
The good assets. But bear in mind, though, that the good assets, there's not enough liquidity to cover the depositors' funds as now, right?
Right, but what that means is that GCB takes over the goods asset. The bad assets, effort will be made to retrieve the bad assets to pay off depositors, right?
So we at a certain point, whatever happens, GCB will have to take some sort of. We hope GCB doesn't have to take on any hit on its profits.
No, I don't think GCB would. You see, these are limited liability companies. What that means is that the shareholders, right, their liability to the operations of the company is limited to the extent of their shareholding. So if there's anybody who's going to take a hit, it's the shareholders who are going to take a hit.
But the shareholders' funds were wiped out a long time ago.
Yes.
So it's not even as if the shareholders' funds were still there, so we could dive into it and take it and use it to pay off depositors.
But there are bad assets also on the books, and those bad assets, effort will be made to recover them, right? Okay. If you heard the governor, listening to the governor now, he is saying that the banks, when it came to their notice that the banks were in a difficult situation, they were asked to draw a restructuring program, right? And the program they brought was not satisfactory.
Right.
Now, when a bank is in that situation, you can ask shareholders to pump in additional money. That is their bank. They own it. So if for some reason it's not being properly managed, shareholders can put in additional money. That's how come he asked them to bring a restructuring program. Unfortunately, the one they brought, according to the governor,
was not satisfactory.
It means that they didn't have any additional money to pump into the bank. In which case, then the Bank of Ghana had to withdraw the license. So now that GCB has taken over the good assets, the bad assets will then be managed. Whoever is it who took the loan has not been paid, it will be chased, to recover the money so that the depositors will be paid off.
Right.
But Chris, I want to make a statement. I dare say that had there been just even a little bit of shareholders' funds there, this drastic action would not have been taken.
Right.
That this will happen only because shareholders' funds have been wiped out, and we've now eaten into depositors' funds. So anybody who comes to guarantee depositors' funds must pray and hope that those bad assets and those recoveries will make up for the gap.
Right. You're still watching Business Focus, your most authoritative business and economic analysis program, live here on TV3. We're discussing the most trending news today. It's been making rounds throughout the day. It has to do with the Bank of Ghana revoking the license of UT Bank as well as Capital Bank. The bank has been taken over by GCB. When we return, we've got some more analysis to do. We'll speak to some few analysts as well on this matter. We'll also find out what they make of the Bank of Ghana's Ghana's new or current leadership and how it is acting to protect the industry from any difficulties. Would also read to you a statement from GCB. Exciting statement announcing the takeover of both banks and what this does to their portfolio. All right, so welcome back to Business Focus, your most authoritative business and economic analysis program. So we're talking about the takeover of UT by GCB, UT and Capital Bank by GCB. My analyst in the studio, Mr. Emmanuel Siedu Mante, as a former deputy governor of the Central Bank, and Joe Jackson is a financial analyst. We also took you to the scenes where the action began this morning, which was the premises of Capital Bank as well as UT, where you saw the bank being rebranded. So I'm going to be sharing with you shortly a statement from GCB announcing the takeover of Capital Bank as well as UT Bank. Mr. Jackson, this must, come with useful lessons for the entire banking industry.
Oh, it does. It does. I mean, it goes beyond saying that. It's a, when you hear the central bank governor talk about shareholders, directors, staff who are culpable, everybody should sit up. That we cannot continue business as usual. And it's an indictment on some of our institutions, especially the local ones, that we seem to assume that because you're a local institution, you need not be held to the same standards worldwide, global standards. And we always say, if you're too stiff on us, then there'll be no local institution left. That cannot be an excuse, especially in the financial sector. We have to be held to the highest standards. That's the only way we will survive. Allowing us to cut corners will actually kill us in the long run, because that's what will happen.
So how do we protect our own?
We protect our own.
How do we do that?
We protect our own by making sure that our own works to the highest standards. That's how you protect your own. You don't protect your own by allowing them to work to a lower standard. You protect your own by saying, because you are my own, right? It's like I'm a headmaster in a school. I must make sure my sons are the best disciplined students in the school, because they are my sons. And I want to hold them up to a high standard. They must do well in school. They must be disciplined. Why? It's like you're saying, because I'm a headmaster, allow my sons to...
Admittedly, we cannot rub shoulders with multinational entities, can we?
Listen, you see, remember, standards have nothing to do with the size of your capital. Bear that in mind. Whether you're making a 5 CD loan or you're making a 5 million CD loan, a good loan is a good loan.
We've got to be wrapping up shortly. I'll come back to Mr. Siedu to take his concluding remarks on the key lessons to learn from this whole episode or caboodle. Let me just pick this little interaction between my colleagues, Mike Paul and Aben, that spoke to some brokers early today.
Here with my colleague, Mike Paul Sowa, who has been reporting from the Ghana Stock Exchange for some time now, and our resource persons to give us the answers we will be seeking are Edem Apenyu, MD, First Bank Brokerage, and Victor Avevo, Head of Securities Trading and Sales at Carl Brokers.
The UT stock, what happens to the stock?
This is not the first time UT has seen something like this. Late last year, there was a halt in trading. But this halt lasted for a day. That was just a halt. This is a suspension. And so naturally, this morning we've had a lot of calls from clients, shareholders of UT Bank, not setting of the future. So the panic fine has come, but they should relax because the GSE is going to look after their best interest. What it is that currently no person can trade, buy or sell UT shares. So when there's a suspension, the GSE releases a press statement and then it writes to the issuer as it is now, I'm assuming GSE would have written to UT Bank. UT Bank is supposed to write back to clarify all these issues that have come up. And primarily, the reason why the GSE suspended the listing status of UT Bank is for the fact that they haven't published their financials since 2015, which is another issue we can look at.
So would GCB Bank take over UT stock?
To be honest, the details are yet to come out. As listed companies, these things require shareholder approvals. I mean, you can't just get up and there's a press statement saying that, look, we are going to take over this. You can do that if you're private. But if you're...
All right, Mr. Sidman, quickly, in a second or in a minute, key lessons moving forward.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we find ourselves in this situation, but I normally tend to look at positive side of things. And I think there are lessons to be learned by all stakeholders in this. First, the supervisor has to learn a lesson that there's need to take quick action or be more vigilant in supervision. Secondly, the directors also need to be vigilant in ensuring that returns that are generated by management are examined thoroughly at the board meetings. And the management also have to do a detailed risk assessment before they lend loans to customers. If these lessons will be learned, then moving forward, I think we'll find ourselves in a safer ground than where we see ourselves now. Because you see, any such incident in the banking industry kills confidence. And banking works on confidence. When people lose confidence in banks, money is not going to flow into the banks. And that would not spell well for the development of the economy. I've
got to say a big thank you to you, Mr. Emmanuel Asiedu-Manteh, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, as well as Joe Jackson, a financial analyst. Thank you very much for being with us on this program. I'm sure there's a lot more to this subject, to this topic. It's a developing story, and I'm sure there's more to come as the days wind on. My name is Parkwesi Asari. Thanks very much for watching. Immense appreciation to the production team, Alfred Okante, Nanika Mensa Brampa, Wendy Lai, Ebenezer, as well as my Paul. Thanks, guys. And we'll see you same time next week. Thank you also to Richard.